welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a new edition of your weekday program, The Daily Debate, here on Nile TV International. I'm your host for tonight, Nancy Sarah Barakat. Today we'll be taking a look at Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukri's visit to Washington ahead of President Abdel Fattah Sisi's visit there in March. Shoukri's trip is the first for him since US President Donald Trump took office on the 20th of January, but he had visited Washington last December and met with Vice President Mike Pence as well as members of Congress. During his visit, Shoukri is scheduled to meet with the Secretary of State Rex Tillerson and other members of the Trump administration, with talks expected to focus on bilateral relations between Egypt and the United States and means of bolstering those relations. Foreign Ministry spokesman Ahmed Abu Zaid said there was a keenness from the American side to hear Egypt's views on several issues, including the war on terrorism, the situations in Syria, Libya, Yemen, as well as the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. What are the most significant outcomes of this visit expected to be? How significant is the timing of the minister's visit to Washington? How do my guests evaluate Egyptian-American ties? Will they improve under the new Trump administration? That's what we're going to be taking a look at in depth on tonight's program. But as always, there's another story making headlines here in Egypt, and today we're shedding light on President Abdel Fattah Sisi, who government to take all the necessary measures to accommodate Coptic Christians who escaped their homes in North Sinai to Ismailia for fear of attacks by terrorists. According to a presidential statement, President Sisi stressed on the importance of countering attempts to undermine security and stability in Egypt while discussing the latest developments regarding the displaced families who have been received and housed until terrorist elements are dealt with. Let's take an in-depth look at this particular story in the following report.
President Abdel Fattah Sisi ordered the government to take all the necessary measures to accommodate Coptic Christians who escaped their homes in North Sinai to Ismailia for fear of attacks by terrorists. According to a presidential statement, President Sisi stressed on the importance of countering attempts to undermine security and stability in Egypt, while discussing the latest developments regarding the displaced families who have been received and housed until terrorist elements are dealt with. In the past few days, churches in Ismailia have received dozens of Coptic families who escaped Arish for fear of being targeted after 8 attacks against Christians took place in North Sinai over the past 2 weeks. For his part, Prime Minister Sharif Ismail ordered the establishment of an operation room to coordinate the provision of services to the families. The Premier said in a statement that the operation room would coordinate with Ismailia, Qalyubiyya, Cairo and Asyut governorates, as well as the Orthodox and Anglican churches, to ensure the necessary services are provided. He added that the state is determined to continue its efforts to counter evil forces and extremism, sending his condolences to the victims' families. The statement added that the Prime Minister is following up on the developments in Arish and is in communication with a number of ministers and officials, as well as Coptic Orthodox Pope Tawadros II. The cabinet statement highlighted that the families have been housed in youth ministry hostels in Ismailia, as well as the Anglican Church, adding that basic needs such as food have already been provided, while medical services and other needs will be provided shortly.
Welcome back, and to tell us more, we're being joined now over the phone by General Ihab Youssef, security expert. Thank you very much for your time.
Ms. Nancy, it's a great pleasure to be with you. Thank you, and great evening for you and your audience.
The pleasure is always mine, General Ihab. Let me start off by asking you, how do you think these attacks began? What prompted them, if you will?
I'm sorry, the line is not very good.
I wanted to ask you how you think these attacks began in the first place against these Coptic families in Sinai.
As you know, and a lot of people know, there are a lot of terrorist attacks that are happening in Sinai, especially when you talk about the North Sinai, the northern part of it. the army have been there for 2 years and a half nearly, and they're spending their efforts there. But it seems that the terrorists are taking advantage of the territory there and still increasing their activities. At the same time, a lot of people have watched the video that was spread over the internet in the couple days past, and they were threatening Christians in Egypt, not just in Sinai, but in Egypt generally.
Right.
It's a sad story. It's a really sad story. People are very angry from what happened today. We've been monitoring the parliament, and the people have a lot of talks about what happened and what needs to be done. The president, as you humbly said, was giving instructions to the government to take all the procedures to make the people feel as comfortable as they can do in their new destination. But this is not the solution. I think that the solution that they have to go back to their places, live peacefully there, protected by the army and the police, that they're doing their job there. We don't underestimate the forces and what they're doing there, from the law enforcement forces, that what they're doing there. But at the end of the day, the people there need to feel that they are. And I think that this is the main challenge now. Because if you look into that, there are several points that people are talking about now. One, why the army and the police were not able to control the terrorists there and not giving them or accepting that they can take advantage of the Christians. This is from a side. From another side, what will be advertised in the international media about this territory that we have been protecting for decades now. So what we need to do is, I think that a lot of information that need to be gathered still, a lot of new policies and procedures in the law enforcement side. And at the same time, we have to, as Egyptians, all together, we have to get united more and more, because this is not an attack on Christians; it's an attack on Muslims, on Egyptians,
right.
Whether they are Christians or Muslims. Now they're trying to segment the society. They're attacking Christians, but if we leave them in the coming wave, it will be Sunnis, and the after wave, it will be the ladies or the men. So they will keep on trying to take segments from the society.
And this is how, obviously, this is how it's been done. I guess this is the kind of terrorist ideology, the terrorist mentality, where you try and divide and conquer, if you will. And I was wondering how you view the government's response to all this, and if you think there are other measures that need to be taken to overcome this current crisis.
From my point of view, and I don't want to be critical on the government, but from my point of view, accepting the guys to move from Sinai to Ismailia, I see that this is not an acceptable option, because yes, they need to be protected, but it's our role to protect them where they live. So it's not that we are going to accommodate them on the new destination.
I just need to clarify, General Ihab, that today the Minister of Interior made clear that it wasn't something that the government or that the ministry had asked the citizens to do, but it was it's a matter of personal choice. They choose to move to Ismailia by themselves in fear for their lives.
Yes, I know
Right.
that this is what came out today from the Minister of Interior, but yes, the people have decided to leave, but this is not because they want to, it's because they are afraid on their lives.
Right.
So, and I think that we have a responsibility to make the people protected and to make them feel that they can be safe in their destination. So, I mean, what I want to say at the end is that, yes, we can accept that they have been moved to this area because they are afraid. It's our role to get them as quick as possible safely to their destination and make sure that they can live peacefully there. This is one. Second, we cannot accept as Egyptians that part of our society is forced to leave their places, because if we accept this, even in the small portion, we're talking about 1,000, 2,000 people, this means that it will escalate and will increase in the future.
Right.
So what we need to do is, as a society, as Egyptians, we have to fight this and be of the support of the army and the police to make them do all their efforts to get these people back to their places and to live there peacefully and safely. And at the same time, if there is any help that the government needs from our side as a society, we have to give. Meanwhile, the government maybe need to look into their security policies again in this area and see if they are up to the required standards or who need to upgrade the level of services that need to be done there.
Okay, and I thank you very much for your insights, General Ihab Yusuf, security expert. Always a pleasure speaking to you. Ladies and gentlemen, let's take a look at the following report highlighting Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry's visit to Washington, D.C., and then we'll be back with my guests here in the studio to discuss that. Stay with us.
Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry headed to the United States on Sunday for talks with U.S. officials. Shoukry is scheduled to meet with Secretary of State Rex Tillerson and National Security Advisor Raymond McMaster, as well as some leading representatives from Congress. During his visit, Shoukry will discuss preparations for President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi's upcoming visit to the United States to meet with President Donald Trump, which would be the first meeting between an Egyptian and U.S. president in years. This is the second visit by Shoukry to Washington since Trump was elected president in November. His first trip was in December when he held a series of meetings with members of Congress and senators. The last official meeting in Washington between the country's two presidents came between former presidents Hosni Mubarak and George W. Bush in 2004. Cooperation between Egypt and the new U.S. administration is expected to deepen. The president and Donald Trump met in September last year on the sidelines of the 71st session of the United Nations General Assembly meetings held in New York when Trump was running for the presidential post. Trump described his meeting with President Fattah al-Sisi as productive and great.
Be the first to know. The news live at the site of the event. Information on